I'm standing on historic Congress Street in downtown Tucson, Arizona. And what I'm holding in my hand is an obsolete banknote or scrip note that was issued by the Safford and Hudson and Company, which was somewhere on this 4 to 6 block range on Congress Street back in 1879 to 1881. This is probably the last time 140 years ago that this note was actually here on this street. That's our story, and believe me, this note has a story. Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome to Polar Currency and video number 84, a currency visit to Tucson, Arizona. As you can see, this is another on-location video because in January of 2025, I was able to purchase that obsolete $20 scrip banknote that I was holding. The note was just the first reason that I came to Tucson. The second was that my family was helping me celebrate my 60th birthday. Yes, I'm officially an old man. A year prior, my daughters arranged a trip for my wife, and when she turned 60, and we went to Florida, so they asked me where I wanted to go. Well, when I purchased that banknote, I knew that Ben The Coin Geek hosted a coin show in Tucson around the time of my birthday, and I enjoy the high desert, so it made the decision pretty easy. When I bought the note, I had no idea that it had such a great story to it that affected the history and development of southern Arizona in the early 1880s. This video is going to go a lot of places, so fair warning, it gets personal. And you know, I have to provide the background first. Before I begin, I have to thank the Arizona Historical Society for their article in the autumn 2002 of the Journal of Arizona, The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing by Dawn Moore Santiago. Without finding that article, I would have never been able to learn the history and tell the story of this banknote. All right, let's get going on this. The time was the late 1870s, and the place was Tucson, and southern Arizona was experiencing an expanding economy fueled by the presence of the U.S. military, Indian agencies, along with the growing industries of cattle ranching, and more in particular, mining that silver and some of that gold. Along with the growth came the demand for financial services, and cash and bills of exchange were needed that didn't come from drafts on account from New York or San Francisco. They were way too slow to respond to what was happening in Tucson at the time. It'd been over a decade since Arizona became a U.S. territory on February 24, 1863, when President Abraham Lincoln signed the Arizona Organic Act of 1862, establishing a separate government and separating it from the New Mexico Territory. The territory was still extremely remote, and only one merchant, Lord and Williams of Tucson, was providing banking services in the southern part of Arizona, and it just wasn't enough. In the post-Civil War era, it was common for local merchants to step in and provide services normally associated with a bank, and this enabled commerce to grow. Lord and Williams Mercantile is the place where the story really starts when they hired a recent arrival who came from back east. So, turning 60, officially passing that milestone that makes you a senior. The age doesn't bother me because I haven't developed emotionally past 8th grade. Anyway, the birthday weekend began with taking off from Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport on Thursday and getting lucky enough to fly direct to Tucson with almost the entire family on board, including 4-month-old grandson. Daughter number 3, who was recently kidnapped and forced to live in Florida by her fiancé, he sadly wasn't able to attend and suffer the punishment of my numismatic birthday trip. She arrived 20 minutes before us at the next gate. It certainly was a change of weather and scenery going from the great white north to sunny southern Arizona. The family descended on Tucson and was able to rent a vehicle via Turo, a car rental service like Airbnb or VRBO, to hold all 8 of us, including luggage. An amazing feat of packing with the wife and 3 daughters and 1 infant. Us 3 boys basically brought a backpack. We rented a VRBO about 20 minutes north of downtown Tucson in Oro Valley. A great place, and the host was fantastic with room for all of us and some to spare. It was a great area and very central to all the things that we'd planned for the long weekend. That "we" was really me for my numismatic birthday celebration. Back to the history. That new arrival from back east at Lord & Williams was Charles Hudson, who arrived in Tucson via New York around 1875 or so. Couldn't find a picture of him, and he probably didn't want one taken, so I'm going to provide you this image of Hudson, giving you a clue of what's going to happen in the future here. Hudson secured a job with Lord & Williams helping manage their growing banking business. Charles Hudson gained the trust of the mercantile owners as well as being held in high regard as a diligent business person in Tucson. He became known as a man who worked for the public good. Hudson was also smart enough to form valuable political and, more importantly, financial connections in the territory. By 1878, Charles Hudson recognized that the region needed a formal bank with larger resources to handle the growing commerce and set out to organize that bank for southern Arizona. The question was he the man to put it together? Well, Hudson worked those connections, and they did become partners in the venture, and they were big names, starting with former Arizona Territorial Governor Anson P.K. Safford, who was appointed by President Ulysses S. Grant in 1869 and served until 1877. Safford provided the credentials, a large personal investment, and connections to San Francisco and Eastern U.S. money, and became one of the bank's directors. Two other prominent Tucsonans were investor John Wasson, who established the Arizona Citizen newspaper founded in 1870, and Dr. James Toole. Toole was a surgeon and the mayor of Tucson in 1879 and came to southern Arizona via California as a first lieutenant serving during the Civil War in 1862. Tucson, Southern Arizona Civil War sidebar. In August of 1861, Confederate forces of the Texas Cavalry and Arizona Militia invaded the territory of New Mexico, which again included present-day Arizona. The commander claimed the area as the Confederate Arizona Territory and had Tucson named as its capital in late 1861. The Confederate Arizona Territory was actually confirmed and passed by the Confederate Congress in early 1862 and proclaimed by Confederate President Jefferson Davis in February of 1862. Let me tell you, I'm a Civil War buff and I had no idea. Anyway, volunteer Union forces were dispatched in May from California, eventually driving the Confederates out. The result was the Battle of Picacho Peak, about 50 miles northwest of Tucson on April 15, 1862. It was fought between the Union California Cavalry Patrol, led by Colonel James Carleton, and a party of Confederate pickets from Tucson, and marks the westernmost battle of the American Civil War that involved fatalities. The short-lived Confederate invasion is what prompted the Union to quickly form the territory of Arizona. And what's really, really interesting, one member of that Union cavalry from California was the mayor of Tucson, Dr. James Toole. End of sidebar. After getting settled in at the house, we decided no one wanted to make dinner, so we selected one of Tucson's finest culinary establishments, In-N-Out Burger. I mean, what more can be said? The only In-N-Out burgers east of the Mississippi and closest to Minnesota is Nashville, Tennessee, and we weren't in Nashville, Tennessee. But Friday was the big day, heading to the Tucson Coin and Currency Expo, hosted by Ben the Coin Geek. The entire family packed up and headed over to the Casino del Sol, and let me tell you, they were super, super excited. The show was a just right regional show. Ben even had free donuts and coffee, and by the way, the donuts were amazing. The casino's ballroom was beautiful, and the setup was really, really nice. I'm kind of used to going to these big places with tip-up concrete walls and concrete floors. Kind of remind me of an indoor prison yard. This was really nice. And what was really nice is there was room to have conversations or sit down and talk. I had great conversations with Tom, John, and Tim, three gentlemen that come from very different backgrounds. It was just fun to hear about what they collected and talk currency, which is what they all primarily collected. Have to admit, sorry Ben, that the show was a bit light on currency, but I certainly understand the ratio, and I know a large currency-only dealer couldn't show due to a family emergency. I wasn't able to pick up any new notes from my list, but I did bring 5 notes that I was looking to trade and upgrade. One of the best part of the shows was being able to sit down with Doug from Doug Dune & Currency, a dealer from Bosque Farms, New Mexico, who basically only had paper money and a lot of it, which was fantastic. He had affordable currency at very fair prices. I traded up my $2.1899 silver certificate that was a good 6 by PCGS banknote to a PMG graded very fine 25. I also purchased 2 Mindanao Island emergency currency notes issued by the Commonwealth of the Philippines in 1944 that came from the second largest island of the Philippines that was occupied by the Japanese during World War II. Perfect for my World War II collection and completes the series, I might add. Thanks, Doug. I really enjoyed talking with you and looking through your U.S. obsolete banknotes. I hope you and your wife certainly enjoy your next Kringle pastry. All right, let's jump back into the history. So Charles Hudson, along with his partners and investors, opened up Safford Hudson & Company Bankers on March 29, 1879. The company was not officially a bank and formed as a partnership, not a corporation, with only $20,000 instead of the standard practice of $50,000 of hard assets. 2 red flags that provide some foreshadowing of Charles Hudson's management style. But the good times were rolling and the bankers began operations in a building owned by Mayor James Toole. The exact location sadly has been lost to time, but it was somewhere on Congress Street on the 4 to 6 block area between Stone Avenue and Main Street. The same street names are used today as they were back in 1879. The partnership provided the typical services of a bank, including checking accounts, savings accounts, sold bills of exchange, telegraph, bank transfers, loans, lines of credit, cash advances on gold and silver, warrants, county bonds, and commercial paper, which means kind of currency, which I have here. A $20 receipt of Mexican silver, and not just any silver, but Mexican silver, which pretty much was a standard currency for the time in proximity to Mexico. This receipt was returnable to the bearer on demand, meaning whoever possessed the note had the right to spend it or cash it in at Safford and Hudson, meaning it was a form of paper currency. This example is actually a remainder note. It was never issued and still has what's called a counterfoil, and that's the receipt that Safford and Hudson would keep for their own records. I purchased this Arizona Territorial Obsolete scrip note from Heritage Auctions along with a $10 Safford and Hudson note and a warrant note issued by the Office of Auditor of Alturos County from the Idaho Territory, all for $99 plus shipping and handling. So they're obviously not expensive notes, but they're perfect for my obsolete state banknote collection. True obsoletes issued from banks from the western states are really tough to find, and they're costly. These scrip notes also show a different aspect of collecting obsolete banknotes, which scrip notes are a subcategory of obsoletes. End of the day, it's my collection, my wallet, my rules. And yeah, did you remember I said that I am a narcissist? Anyway, I had the Safford and Hudson 20 and the Idaho Territory warrant note graded by PCGS Banknote just to preserve and protect them because they are really very large notes. Safford and Hudson and Company bankers weren't the only bank to open up in 1879. They weren't even the first, and they had to get used to being second. The Pima County Bank opened 3 months earlier on January 1st, 1879. Notice the name bank in Pima County Bank, not bankers, and they opened up with the standard amount of $50,000 in capital. So as 1879 became 1880, Tucson was seeing rapid economic development, and the Tucson arrival of the Southern Pacific Railroad in March of 1880 kicked things into really high gear. The railroad now connected the remote city, bringing in significant economic and social changes, faster travel, and new goods to the previously isolated area, which all meant one thing: money. Both banks prospered along with Lord and Williams. The Tucson area growth spilled over to Tombstone when silver was discovered in 1877. But Tombstone was still dependent on Tucson, who had the railroad, which wouldn't connect to Tombstone until 1903. Both Safford and Hudson and the Pima County Bank saw the business opportunity and opened up branches in Tombstone within months of each other in 1880. Once again, the Pima County Bank was first. The two firms competed, but both benefited and grew with the exploding economy from 1880 to 1881. Then financial panic hit the area. Lord and Williams, that also served as the official U.S. assayer depository, closed its doors due to a scandal in 1881. I couldn't find out what the scandal was, and I really wanted to know. This made the appointment for the U.S. depository available and accelerated the rivalry between Safford and Hudson and the Pima County Bank. But a federal requirement was made that whoever got the depository appointment also had to become a national bank. Getting back to the Tucson Coin and Currency Expo, I still had the opportunity for a few purchases and maybe a trade left. I was able to pick up a 1918 $1 Federal Reserve banknote from Minneapolis from none other than Old Pueblo Coin. Yeah, Ben gave me a very fair price, and the note certainly was an upgrade from my fine 12 to FX40 EPQ. If I had purchased that note in Minnesota, it would have been at least $100 more. But don't tell Ben that. Even though the show was light on currency, there were two dealers that had boxes of world banknotes. So I sat down and spent some time digging through those and found a beautiful Rainbow Effect 1911 about an XF5 Boliviano from Bolivia, printed by the American Banknote Company for only $15. That was just fun for me. So those were the items that I picked up at the show. I spent about 4 hours looking and talking, and the family was just letting me have fun wandering around the show. I even got a camera assist from daughter number 3 for a while. Luckily, the show was at a casino, so the kids got to go gamble, walk around outside because the weather was just stellar, grab some coffee at the Soul Brew. All the while, the grandson was hanging out with one of his aunts, mom, or grandma. Imagine where we all could be as collectors if we went to our first money show at 4 months old. Maybe I'd have a shot at something like Tyler's collection from Currency Relics, because he started when he was like 3 years old.
Crappy twos. More crappy twos.
Our obsolete banknote story continues. The beginning of the end for Safford and Hudson was near. At this point, former Arizona Territorial Governor and primary investor Anson P.K. Safford decided to diversify his investments into other ventures and wanted out of Safford and Hudson. In the spring of 1881, he did just that and sold his shares to Hudson and Toole. As a bank, Safford and Hudson, particularly Charles Hudson, was much more liberal in lending compared to the Pima County Bank, which would become a problem. In early January of 1882, the bank was reorganized without Safford and renamed Hudson and Company Bankers. The bank's reputation was still solid at the time, with the change being noted in the Arizona Daily Star, that both Hudson and Toole are considered staunch, thorough businessmen and of the highest integrity. In March of 1882, the decision was made and the Pima County Bank was awarded charter number 2639 to become the first national bank of Tucson and did issue national banknotes, but only $5 bills, 8,480 of them to be exact, with only 4 known to exist today. The last known sale of this note was in June of 2008 for over $218,000. I can see why with that rarity of an Arizona Territorial, but a grade of 55 EPQ? I mean, holy crap! As it turns out, Hudson and Company never completed their application, most likely because of Safford's financial withdrawal, limiting their reserves. Needless to say, the relationship between the now First National Bank of Tucson and the Hudson and Company became less congenial, but both continued to operate profitably for at least the next year or so. Before we left the Tucson Coin and Currency Expo, I was able to sit down with Ben for a short conversation. Here's the edited version. All right, folks, I'm sitting here in Tucson, Arizona. What casino are we at?
The Casino del Sol.
And I'm with Ben The Coin Geek at his Coin Expo. I don't even know the name anymore.
Yeah, neither do I. Tucson
Coin
and
Currency Expo.
Yes.
You've dropped the invitational because
Yes,
it sounded
because
snotty.
everyone's invited. It's on the snotty. It's on the snotty list. We're getting rid of it. Unbelievable.
This is Ben. You're going to see pictures of it. I've panned the show. This is a beautiful room. Number one, beautiful facility.
Yeah.
Super easy to get to. This is probably the nicest show room I've ever been to. So good choice.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It really is nice. You got a setup that's nice. It's a full house. It looks like
busy.
It is busy.
It's been busy.
It's Friday morning, opening morning.
It feels like a coin show. Like the room, like I've been places and it feels like you're inside of a tanker. It's like a huge show, but it just feels like you're inside of a bunker. You know what I mean?
I
love the feel. Yeah.
When Ben, you say regional show, this is regional. I prefer this type of show because I've already had several conversations with folks, and it's just been nice to be able to talk without being, excuse me, this.
Yeah.
But what I like is your ends. Ben has provided free coffee, which is dynamite coffee, and donuts, which are amazing. And I'm a donut connoisseur. So biggest thing that I want to help promote, I've got a personal history that I've dealt with family crises, but you're doing a lot of benefit for the Campos family.
Oh, yeah. So all of our door entry fees and raffle prizes, raffle ticket sales go straight to the Campos family.
Yes.
So, and then also a couple times a year, we'll have a sale. Like if you follow the YouTube channel, The Coin Geek, we'll mention it. And then throughout the year, we have amazing viewers that send us coins. And then we're able to go ahead and, sell those coins on eBay for them. And it's just cool.
My family was in that position 10 years ago and not with cancer, other things. And it really is needed and it helps. And it's hard to ask for help. It's very hard to ask for help.
Yeah.
So thank you for doing that. But the great show, the currency, I haven't been around, but so far so good. It's okay. I'm not going to say it's great what I've seen so far.
I will say I had a guy specifically for currency, and he had a family issue.
That was the guy that couldn't come. You were talking to me about
actually just a few days. Anyways, but
it's still here. It's still here. Yep. But I mean, it's just a great show, and I appreciate you inviting me.
He invited himself, folks.
I did invite myself.
Sort of.
I'm down here for I'm turning old 60th birthday party, and I actually have the whole family.
The whole family.
And Ben, I am super excited about my Tucson, Safford and Hudson banking house note.
I'm looking forward to all the other little content you're going to produce. Your notes that you're looking into, and then like the family trip, the vibe. I know you're going to have like a lot of. It's not going to be B-roll. It's going to be all A-roll.
But I was taking a lot of B-roll just because you need some B-roll to get the A-roll.
Yeah, yes.
Like literally taking off from the plane and things like that. Well, you always need background stuff. So
see, this is a professional. That's how you do it.
Well, I mean, Tucson, great area. Can't wait. There'll be a little part 2 just by myself. I'm going to stop by tomorrow. We have to stop by the Mecca of Old Pueblo coin. And again, I think you guys all appreciate Ben, his knowledge. Maybe you don't appreciate his personality like I do.
I'm hard to get along with.
Yeah, you're super hard to get along with.
Very much so.
But that's one of the things that I respect, your knowledge and people recognizing, giving you the credit in the industry of coin collecting. And you do a ton of currency for quote unquote a coin guy. You do.
I know. I'm the black sheep of the coin.
I appreciate it. So I have to go to the shop that Saturday morning. Ben, that's all I got. I just wanted to say hi, promote.
Super appreciate.
I really appreciate
the official. Got the official media.
I'm a media guy. I know it. It's kind of scary. I'm Dan J.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened here.
I don't care. I
know what happened here. There's a long story.
It doesn't matter.
I have a handwritten one for him.
Already done.
There's a long story there. It's a short story.
Ben, I hope the rest of the show goes as great
Appreciate
as it can't get any. I mean, seriously, this is awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Ben.
it.
It was very gracious of Ben to share his time. I mean, the man was busier than a farmer with one hoe and 2 rattlesnakes. He was also kind enough to give the grandson a baby-sized Coin Geek t-shirt. How cool is that? Thanks, Ben. I really appreciated the hospitality. You really welcomed my family and myself to your wonderful Expo show, whatever you call it. Meanwhile, back in 1882, the good fortune was coming to an end, and fast. The miners over in Tombstone went on strike as the powerful Grand Central Mine and Contention Mines both cut operations significantly while trying to install new water pumps in the fall of 1883. The mining companies cut the miners' pay, which brought on the strike. Both banks knew there would be a huge demand for hard cash. Hudson and Company was able to transfer $125,000 in hard cash from Tucson. But things went further south. On May 1st, 1884, with no notice, the mining companies ordered a lockout, closing the mines altogether. This was now rock bottom. Then on May 9th, out of seemingly nowhere, Hudson and Company declared bankruptcy and shut both the Tombstone and Tucson locations down. It was believed at the time that Hudson and Company had the assets to cover the bank's liabilities, or at least should have. So things were a little calmer in Tucson compared to Tombstone, where Hudson and Company's employees were told to leave and come back to Tucson. It seems that Safford's withdrawal from the partnership and the cash transfer of $125,000 the previous fall to cover Tombstone during the strike was the issue and couldn't all be accounted for. This, of course, draining Hudson and Company's reserve, and they simply just ran out of cash. Rumors began to spring up that Hudson and Company, in particular Charles Hudson, and his possible unethical policies on speculative loans that supposedly tied up security funds that could not be quickly liquidated. Hudson and Company, i.e. Charles Hudson, had also invested heavily in local mining stocks whose value had recently plummeted. All things pointed to Charles Hudson, who remained silent and unseen. Well, let me tell you this, folks. The torches were being lit and the pitchforks were being sharpened. And now we get to my big 60th birthday party. Man, I'm old. And being the narcissist that I am, I made my family throw me a birthday party. Well, I really didn't make them. They're just good people and they did it. But we had a great meal, great drinks, some cigars, and a ton of laughs, all at my expense, of course. My daughters put together a photo memory book and asked people from all periods of my life to wish me happy birthday. Even some currency friends chimed in, which they will pay a heavy price for that. There were actually nice things said about me. Not a lot, because if you know me, you'd know that I'm really just an ass. The family actually learned a few things from my past that, funny, I never shared before them, with good reason. Those got the biggest laughs, of course. Special thanks to my daughter number 1, who reached out to everyone and pulled everything together and made the book. Sincere thanks to everyone. It's something I'll treasure for a long ever time with the memories of the trip to Tucson. I'm very blessed to have my family, and I'm even counting the son-in-law, fiance, and boyfriend of 10 years. Wow. I almost threw up in my mouth having to say that. All right, back to our story. I'm starting to well up here. With Charles Hudson remaining silent, it turns out that the now former Tucson mayor, James Toole, was truly a victim of the bankruptcy. He lost nearly everything and was given grace by the people of Tucson. But the conspiracy haunted Toole for months, and he tried to take responsibility, but he just didn't have any answers. Ironically, he considered Charles Hudson a very good friend. Things began to get so heated that Toole sent his pregnant wife to Beaver Dam, Wisconsin to be with her sister for safety reasons. Then, in October of 1884, James Toole, with only the money in his pocket, left Tucson on a train bound for Wisconsin. At 11 o'clock on the evening of October 15, 1884, Dr. James Toole sadly shot himself sitting on a train in Colorado. Tucson mourned the loss and named a street after him in downtown bordering the railroad tracks that still bears his name today, Toole Avenue. On June 22, 1884, the Arizona Daily Star described Hudson as the usual wolf in sheep's clothing, his capital a worthless check, and hypocrisy his stock in trade. As it turned out, Charles Hudson had arrived in Tucson after multiple bank frauds involving the 8th National Bank of the City of New York in 1871 and in 1873 of the F.R. Sherwin and Company of New York. Hudson was arrested in both cases, but charges were never filed against him for either fraud. Here's what's super interestingly ironic. According to the Society of Paper Money Collectors U.S. National Bank lookup, Charles Hudson was the actual cashier that signed the 8th National Bank of the City of New York Nationals. I mean, can you believe it? Track and Price only has one known sale and no images. It's little things like these that I just love to find. Hudson also left Tucson in the fall of 1884, and it was reported that in 1886 he was a wholesale liquor dealer in, of all places, Belfast, Ireland. Well, there was one last stop before leaving Tucson to make. The kids went hiking. I thought about it for about, 0.07 seconds, and then decided I had to visit Old Pueblo Coin. My wife, who's a glutton for punishment, came along. But the bonus for her is that baby grandson came along too. If you've seen Ben's videos, you know the place, at least the walls, instantly. It certainly isn't big, but does have back rooms and storage. Ben really knows how to pack in and hang up about every single coin and currency ephemera known to the numismatic universe. There's just stuff everywhere. It was so cool. It's a coin shop that everyone wants their local shop to be, although it could use more currency. I'm just saying. I got to meet 3 of Ben's coworkers, and I was surprised that the shop was busy, especially when the Expo was still happening over at the casino. I think my favorite thing was seeing the bid board. It was really cool. That's something that every local coin shop should have. And, of course, I couldn't resist purchasing one banknote. I saw it in the case and said, yep, I'm going to get it. Old Pueblo Coin had a PMG graded 66 1970 Bank of Canada $1 bill priced for $25. I got it for $20. I do have this note in my collection, but I couldn't send it in to get graded for $20. And by the way, I found out who the engineer is for Ben. With that, let's finish up the history of my Tucson Obsolete scrip remainder note. The impact of the Hudson and Company failure was widespread. Many investors lost considerable savings. The closing created a regional panic, and even the owners of the First National Bank of Tucson could no longer meet national bank regulations, closing and reopening as the Bank of Tucson in 1885, a state bank now with less regulations. The collapse of the Hudson and Company is considered by many historians as one of the key factors that brought about the end of southwestern Arizona's early boom years of the 1880s. I'm going to quote directly from the Journal of Arizona History article as it best sums up the situation of 1884 in Tucson and Tombstone. Quote, "In the end, Hudson's unethical, if not criminal, practices affected businesses and ordinary citizens in Tucson, Tombstone, and southern Arizona. The loss of the banking institution happened just as the region slipped into an economic downturn, perhaps hastened or worsened the area's financial woes. Most tragic of all was the revelation that while Hudson escaped relatively unscathed, his action ruined many lives, including the life of his trusted partner, James Toole. Charles Hudson was indeed a wolf in sheep's clothing." End quote. With that, we took off from Tucson on Sunday and headed back to Minnesota. What a slap in the face that was. We went from not a cloud in the sky and 75 degrees to -8 below, 40-mile-an-hour winds, and blowing snow. But we made it back, and I had the best mini numismatic vacation I think I could ever have. Yeah, I'm 60. So what? Officially old, but I've got the best wife and daughters and grandson in the world. I'm one lucky currency collector. Well, that's it for a currency visit to Tucson, Arizona. A birthday, a family vacation, a coin and currency show, a great banknote with some fantastic history. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a long one, but it shows you that you can involve your family and friends with currency collecting, even if you have to bribe them with taking them to a trip to a warm place from the frozen tundra. My wife has been with me to a few shows, but the daughters and their significant others had no clue. Now they understand and maybe appreciate why I collect. As always, I appreciate your time. Please take the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up button, and feel free to leave a comment or a question. We'll see you next time, and thanks for checking in.